going where I needed to go. And so her dad says, you got to get your degree first. And so you know what I did? I took 18 credits a semester. I took summer classes. I took winter classes. I did everything I could to become a man of standing worthy to step into the covenant of marriage. There are some people that are not doing what they need to do with their life, but you want to be in a relationship with them. You want to date them. You want a Boaz. You want somebody that has been prepared. You want a Boaz, and that's spelled Boaz, Boaz, okay? A country preacher once said, you don't want a lazy ass, okay? I don't want to get in trouble here. You don't want a broke ass, okay? You don't want someone, you don't want an abusive ass, you know what I'm saying? Somebody that's beating your ass, you know what I'm saying? You don't want certain people in your life. AZ now, I don't want to get in trouble, okay? You want a Boaz, you know what I'm saying? You want somebody in your life that is a person of standing. When you don't raise the standard in the people you date, you experience these other guys that lead to a lot of trauma and pain and frustration. And in the culture, what we're used to is people date and they break up. They date and they break up. They date and they break up. And then we're supposed to get married for life. It's because we've lowered the standard and we're dating before people are actually ready to date. Raise the standard and let God meet the standard for you. Watch what God does when you say, I'm going to raise the standard of what I'm looking for. I want a person that is a person of standing, that is not passive, that is not complacent, but a person that knows where they're going, knows what they're doing with their life. And so we'll continue in Ruth chapter 2, verse 2. And it says, and Ruth, the Moabite, said to Naomi, let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain, after him in whose sight I shall find favor. And she said to her, go, my daughter. So she set out and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. So there's this word, it just so happened that she was out there working. It just so happened that while she's working, she meets Boaz. She's in the field. There's this thing about God's providence. When you raise the standard, what you're saying to God is, God, I'm going to trust you. And when you tell God, God, I trust you, you know what he does? He begins to write. And God's providence is when he uses natural circumstances to produce supernatural solutions. It is God winking at us. It's his providence. It just so happens, right? It just so happens that she's going to work. She's going to the places where she's supposed to be. That she is a hard-working woman that says, I'm going to go glean. That term might escape some of you. Gleaning comes out of Leviticus chapter 19. To glean means to follow harvesters. As they're picking up grain, eventually some grain would fall out. Whatever they're reaping, some of it would fall out. Gleaning is for the poor and the widows. They would follow behind the reapers and they would pick up what's left over. It was God's way of caring for the poor and for the widows so that they weren't destitute. And so she says, you know what I'm going to do? I'm a widow. I don't have anything. We're poor. I'm going to go to work. I'm going to go to the places where I can allow God's providence to show up in my life. I'm going to go to places where she says, where I can find a person that will have favor on me, where I can meet the right person in my life. God's providence works just as powerfully as all the other supernatural acts of God. In the book of Ruth, you will not see a miracle. You will not see parting of the Red Sea. You won't see water turned into wine, but you will see God writing their story through his providence. It just so happened. For some of you that are married in the room, some of you in relationships, you can look back to your story and remember the moments that it just so happened. You just so happened to be going on a friend's trip, and the two of you are left by yourself to just talk for hours. It just so happened that you passed this person at the right moment when they were passing by. It just so happened. Like when I met Issei for the very first time, I just so happened to be going to a Christian event where she happened to be one of the judges on stage. I had been in Dallas for a year, never met her before, was working at Covenant Church, faithful to Covenant Church, but I was about to take a job at the Ethiopian church, and so the Ethiopian youth pastor at the time invited me to this event. And she was on stage, and he said, well, let me come introduce you to some people. And the first person he introduces me to is to Issei. It just so happened. It happened because she was in the place that she was supposed to be. Let me ask you, where are you meeting the people that you're dating? Where are you meeting them? If you bar hopping, man, it's not God's providence. Let me tell you that. If you at the club, we were playing basketball last Saturday, and we were talking about going to church. And one of the guys was like, "Oh, you guys are going to the club?" I'm like, "No, we're going to church." He's like, "Oh, I thought you meant the club called the church." I said, "No, man, we're going to a real church." I said, "Do you want to come with us?" He's like, "Nah." But you go into places, and you're saying, "God, I want to see your providence." But you're not going to places where God is writing those stories. Because the people that are the Boazes, the people of standing, they're not there. If you want to find a person of favor, you want to go to places where you're going to find people of character. Another reason God's providence just so happened to work out is that in Ruth chapter 1, Naomi prayed for her. She prayed for her. She says, "May the Lord show you kindness, and may he bring you a husband." Prayer is one of the ways that God's providence gets into motion. If you are in a season of your life where you're thinking about marriage, where you want to find the right person in your life, begin to pray. There are some people that you can pray into your life, and there are some people that you will pray out of your life. But prayer is how providence works, and God takes our prayer seriously. There's no wasted prayer time. There's no time when you're praying and God is like, "Yeah, this doesn't matter." God cares about what you care about. He does. He wants to give you the desires of your heart as it lines up to what he is doing for you. Prayer makes a difference. She was working with the right people. Let's go to Ruth chapter 2, verse 4 to 6. We're going to just continue to walk through here. "And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem, and he said to the reapers, 'The Lord be with you.' And they answered, 'The Lord bless you.' Then Boaz said to the young men who was in charge of the reapers, 'Whose young woman is this?' And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, 'She is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab.'" I want to stop there. We learn something about Boaz's character here. Number one, that he's a leader and he's kind to his people. And the name of God is on his lips. The first thing he says to the people that are working with him is he says, "May the Lord bless you." And he's a good boss because they respond back, "May the Lord bless you." You know, if your workers don't like you, they're not going to say nothing back. If it doesn't match up to what you're saying, they're not saying anything back. But he says, "May the Lord bless you." If you guys are talking and dating with somebody and you're getting to know somebody and the name of God is never on their lips, their relationship with Jesus, they never talk about it. Their intimacy with God, you don't know about it. They don't talk about the church. They don't talk about the things that is happening in their life. It may be a reason to pause, because when you are a person of standing and character and you're a godly person and you're a follower of Jesus, those things should be important enough to share. You can't hide that. You really can't hide who you are in Christ in the world. You can't hide it. It's not a good compliment when you've known people and worked with people for years and they say, "I didn't know you were a Christian." That is not a good compliment. How could you not know that I'm a follower of Jesus, that I'm so familiar, so same as the world, that you can't tell the difference between me and a follower of Jesus? Why? Because it doesn't matter if you're in the marketplace, people should know that you are a lover of Jesus. It should be on your lips. What I love about Boaz that you notice is that he's not a priest, he's not a prophet, he's not a pastor, but he has a ministry. His ministry is his field. His ministry is his harvest. It's the people that he is serving. It's the people that he's working with. He continues to bless them. That is his ministry. He didn't need a title, but he was in full-time ministry. We often talk about first what we value most, and in your places that you are, if Jesus is at the top of your priority, you will talk about him. If the Lord is at the top of your priorities, you will talk about him and people will know that you love Jesus. Now, if you're not living to the standard of Christ, they will know. They will know as well. But as you are looking for the right person, you want to make sure that they love Jesus. When Issa and I were dating, we would do devotionals every week. We had a devotional book. Some of you guys have asked us for that book. It's old, man. It's an old book. We dated 14 years ago, so this is an old devotional book. And we would do these devotionals by ourselves at home, and every Sunday after church, we would just grab coffee, and we would talk about the things that God was teaching us through this devotional time. And these opportunities got us to learn each other of how we prayed, of what we learned, of where we are. And in your dating relationship, you should talk about Jesus together. That should be a big part of who you are as you are dating. One of the things I love about Boaz here is that he asked about Naomi, or he asked about Ruth, and he says, who does she belong to? Out of concern for her. Out of genuine concern for her. I don't think he was trying to creep in the DMs. He wasn't over here like trying to like, hey, who does she belong to? I think he's just genuinely concerned, like who's taking care of her. And as he hears her story, Ruth's online profile wouldn't have been a good one. Right? Like we all have that one good picture we put on our social media, you know what I'm saying? Like when you have an online profile and you're out there dating, we all have that one good picture and we share it everywhere. Some of y'all can get catfished in relationships real easy because you buy into that one picture, right? But her online profile wouldn't have been a great one. It would have said that she was a widow, which meant she wasn't a virgin, which is a big deal at that time. It meant that she was a Moabite woman. Her online profile would have said she was a foreigner and a person not belonging to this community, a sinner, somebody that used to worship a false god. She is not the kind of person a Boaz would have automatically taken on her online profile. But that is what I love about this story. Let me tell you, for some of you guys, don't allow the past to take what God is going to bring for you in the future. Don't allow the past, what you did in the past, who you were in the past, what you experienced in the past. We all have a past. If it was yesterday, it's in the past. We all have a story, but we do not allow that past to shape our future. Don't disqualify other people in your life because of their past, because of what they've been through, because of what they've endured, because God is rewriting stories. And he's rewriting your story, and he's rewriting their story. So don't let the past talk you out of your present and what God is doing in the future. Qualities to look for in a partner. I just want to close with this. I know I've been going for a little while. I think I just missed you guys, and I over-prepared to share today. But let me give you some qualities to look for in a partner, right? As you're out there dating, as you're looking for a Boaz, there were certain qualities that Ruth noticed in Boaz, and there are certain qualities Boaz noticed in Ruth. And so let's go to verse, we're just going to go to verse, let's start in verse 7 here. From the country of Moab, and she said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves after the reapers. So she came and she continued from early morning until now, except for a short rest. In verse 8, then Boaz said to Ruth, now listen, my daughter, do not go to glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner? But Boaz answered her, all that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me, and how you left your father and your mother and your native land and came to the people that you did not know before. The Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. So we see some qualities here. We see some qualities and character in Boaz and in Ruth. If you're a lady in the room, these are some qualities that you want to have and you want to develop if you are looking for a Boaz in your life. The qualities Boaz notices in Ruth, and one is she is faithful to God. It says that you turned You turned from Moab. You turned from Moab and you came to Bethlehem. You turned from the gods you worship and you began to worship the gods of Israel. I see that you are faithful to God. She's faithful to the Lord. She's loyal to her family. He says, I heard that you've been faithful to Naomi. That when everybody else left her, when the other sister-in-law left her, daughter-in-law left her, you stayed back. She was faithful to her family. She was a hard worker. She took initiative. It says that she worked all day. She took a short break. She was a hard worker, and she honored God morally. In those times, most widows would have just sold their bodies to make ends meet. But she says, I'm going to humble myself, and I'm going to glean. I'm not going to dishonor my body. I'm going to honor the Lord. I'm going to be faithful to my family. I'm going to be faithful to God. I'm going to be faithful to who he's called me to be. And I'm going to work hard, man. She says, I'm working hard. And these are good characteristics to notice, qualities to notice in another. Because how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do it, this is how you're going to become. If you want something different, you want to be something different. You want to be something different. Qualities that Ruth noticed in Boaz. One, he's a man of standing. That was where it began. But he honors her. Ladies, this may sound old-fashioned, but he opens the door, right? Like you're dating somebody, he needs to honor you. He needs to pay for some meals. He needs to take you out to places that you have to tip, and he needs to pay. Funny story, okay? I kid you not. When Issa and I were dating, I made $24,000 a year as a full-time youth pastor. $24,000 a year. I worked for her dad. He knew exactly how much I made. So we were dating, and I paid for everything. I paid for every meal. And even if her younger brother would come, I'd pay for his meal too. And her dad had to pull me aside and say, David, stop. I know what you want to do is honorable. I know you want to take care of her, but you literally can't afford to be paying for her food all the time. Stop, okay? It is honorable. Men, be men of honor and take care of these ladies. He honored her. He honored her. He protects her. He says, I've told all the men not to touch you. I've told everybody, hey, she's with me. I know she doesn't have any other covering, so she's with me. I'm going to protect her. Men, we're called to be protectors of our family. And if you're dating, you not only protect her physically, protect her spiritually. Protect her purity. Fellas, let me say this clearly. Protect her purity. As a man of God, you are called to lead at a high level. And if you want to protect her, you're not protecting her from any dangers out here. Protect her from the spiritual damage in here. Protect her purity. When you lead the way spiritually to say, I'm going to honor and protect your purity, it speaks volumes to the standard and the kind of character that you have. He provides for her. He says, whatever you need, drink from the men. Whatever you need, what I have here belongs to you. And he prays for her. At the very end in verse 12, he prays for her. Men, when men pray, things happen. Be men of prayer. Pray for your family. One of our friends recently went through a divorce, and the guy that ended up leaving the family, and as they were sharing the story with Issei, this person was in ministry. He was a follower of Jesus. He loved the Lord. And the wife recognized that he used to never pray for her. He said, he never prayed for me. Like, he would go to church and he would pray on stage and he would do worship and he would do these things. But when we're at home, he didn't pray for us. He didn't pray for me. He didn't pray for the kids. Fellas, pray for your partner. Pray for them out loud. Pray for them by name. Hold hands. Because when you pray, things happen. This is a standard for us to reach. Now, I haven't always been all these things. And that is the beautiful thing of Scripture, where God raises the standard for us and says, now I'm going to help you meet that. Ladies, if you see some things and qualities and characters and you say, I haven't been measuring up to that, that is okay. That is why we preach the gospel. Because God says, this is the standard, let me help you get there. Men, if you're not praying now, start praying tomorrow. If you're not honoring now, start honoring tomorrow. That is the beauty of growing in our relationship with God. These standards are not here to shame us or to belittle us, but God is calling us up to a higher life. And he is saying there is more for you on this side. There's better life on this side. I just want to close with this last thought. Worship team, you guys can come on up here. And we're just going to pray. But this is a beautiful picture of Christ and the church. And in verse 14 in Ruth chapter 2, it says, and at mealtime, Boaz said to her, come here and eat some bread and dip your morsel in the wine. So she sat beside the reapers, and he passed to her roasted grain, and she ate until she was satisfied, and she had some left over. And the beauty of this is that Jesus is our Redeemer. He's our Redeemer. This is a picture of what the Lord has done for you and I. Most of us are like Ruth. When we come to know God, we are far from God. We're worshiping false idols. We don't know him. We're tore up from the floor up. There's nothing good about us. And we just have to humble ourselves and turn from Moab and come back to Bethlehem and glean on his goodness. Everything that we get is from the goodness of our Redeemer. And in his grace, he says, I have so much for you. He invites us to the table and says, I got bread and wine. I got enough for you to be satisfied. I got enough grace for you to grow in. You can come and you can sit with me. Jesus invites you and I to the table to dine with him, to redeem us, to restore us. That is who he is. We find ourselves moments of hardship and in turmoil, and God says, let me come and be the Redeemer for you. As we get ready to respond, if you're new to Anchor, we do response every Sunday, which means